Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Bro Earth 616 to Bro Bedford Stuyvesant's apartment in Brooklyn, New York, to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the Uncanny Curious.
And I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance
Bro
Symbol.
symbol.
Volume 81. How are you doing tonight, Brent?
I'm doing good. I'm very happy to finally get to talk about what turns out was a really awesome couple of episodes.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it. We're not live. For those of you that usually join us live, you can we'll be back to our regularly scheduled live slot in a week's time. But it is American Thanksgiving. When you're listening to this, it would have been yesterday. But Brent and I want to enjoy time with family, and though we love you all as listeners, we love our families just a bit more.
Just a hair. I mean,
Just a
it's
hair.
Close. It's close, but
it's close. But yeah. So I had a little bit of went into work for a little bit today, and now I've got the rest of the time off. So that'll be good time to relax. Got most of my shopping done for the holidays, so I'm very, very happy about that.
yeah, I mean, I think we've done a little bit of. My wife has done a little bit of Christmas shopping already, but no, like I personally have not done anything for it.
You got time. You got a month.
Yeah, a month.
Hey, you got the 24th. You can do shopping on the 24th.
I mean, yeah, whatever. That wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, let's get those network plugs out of the way. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 8 shows. On Mondays, we've got my show, World's Finest True Believers, alternating bi-weekly with the Ranger Alliance. This week, I dropped a new episode. Nathan, from co-host of Star Wars Alliance and SCS Podcast, rejoined me to continue our journey into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, looking at year 2. So make sure you check that out. So next week, Ranger Alliance will be dropping a new episodes. On Tuesdays, we got DC Alliance. Wednesday, superhero discussions. Thursday, Star Wars Alliance. This show on Fridays. A walk through the multiverse on Saturdays bi-weekly. And Slice of Film is returning to bi-weekly on Sundays. I know this coming Sunday, Katie will be dropping 2 back-to-back episodes looking at Ghostbusters 2016. And then Clay and I joined her for our review of Ghostbusters Afterlife. Spoiler alert, we all loved it, but we've got a lot to talk about with the review itself. So make sure you check that out, and also make sure you check out DC Alliance, Star Wars Alliance, and this show have our own solo feeds apart from the GUA. But again, if you wanted to see all the shows, all the episodes, listen to them all, subscribe to that GUA feed. DC Alliance goes live on Monday nights at 9:00, and Star Wars Alliance goes live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, and this show goes typically live on Thursday nights at 9:10 Eastern, all on the Geekverse Podcast YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out. And we would like to, as always, make sure we plug our Patreon. So if you can join us on Patreon, we greatly appreciate it. We can't do this without your support. And if we got 2 tiers, we got our $1 tier. It's our tip jar. Say, hey, we're doing a good job. We really appreciate it. And then we've got our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive episodes. So make sure you check that out. But if you can't join us on Patreon, totally understand. If you can give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or whatever podcast your choice may be, we greatly appreciate that. And as always, got to plug our official sponsor, organicpricebooks.com, for all your omnibus collected edition hardcover needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on. And if you use that code MarvelGUA at checkout, you get $2 off every single order. And this week, to not be left in the cold, Organic Price Books has launched their Black Friday sale, giving an extra 5% off on your entire order. So make sure you check that out as well. And thank you, OPB, for being our official sponsor. All right. So our big topic, our only topic tonight besides Comic Book Club, is we have Disney Plus returning into Marvel. We've waited about a month and a half to have
something like that.
Something like that. So we got 2 episodes. So what we're gonna do is we'll give our non-spoiler thoughts, and then we'll kind of focus on episode 1. We'll do a kind of a breakdown of that, and then we'll move on to episode 2. So that way, y'all can break it up. If you've only seen one episode, you can listen to a part of the waypoint and then go on with the episode. So, all right, non-spoiler thoughts, Brent. What did you think about these 2 episodes?
They were delightful. I just really, really was just captivated by it. It's like, wow, it's like Hawkeye, he's never gotten the most to do in the movies. Avengers Endgame and arguably part of Age of Ultron, and that's about it, right? I've always liked him. It's just he's never had that much to do. So I really appreciated seeing him with more to do on top of that. And I tell you, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop is, that's one of those just perfect castings, right? Like she just embodies the character. Like there's no headcanon, no we like, oh, I can kind of see it, or no, like she just is Kate Bishop, and it's great. Like I was really impressed with both of these episodes, and if the next 4 are even as close to as good as these, then this is top tier stuff.
Oh yeah, and when you go back to the casting of Haley Steinfeld, that had been rumored for almost a year before they it almost took, even when the set photos came out of them going down to the train, it's like, oh no, she's still not cast. We're not going to acknowledge that yet. And but you always wonder, saying, is it going to be, she looks the part, is she going to nail it at that point? Yeah, her demeanor of the character, her enthusiasm for, basically fangirling out when she finally meets Clint. Very great job. I'm looking forward to continuing their kind of playing off of each other. But even just how the episodes break down, in the sense of, like, without getting too spoiled, how both episodes give kind of a moment to shine for both of our main characters. Episode 1 is mainly for Kate. Episode 2 is mainly for Clint at that point. So they do a very good job of, intermixing them both within both episodes, but our main protagonists get a lot of time to shine. So it is not a very, it's action packed. They have some action sequences, but these 2 episodes are very character driven, very character focused, in the sense of seeing not only where Clint stands post Endgame, but also introducing us to a new character to the MCU in Kate Bishop.
Yeah, and we know the action is coming. That's coming. We've seen the clip of the car chase from the Disney Plus day, and like that scene wasn't in either of these episodes. I expect it to be in the first 10 minutes of episode 3 next week, actually. But we know the action is coming. They can do the action, but the character work is just so strong, so strong.
Yeah, very, very good, and it's intriguing me, knowing, as we're in the middle of reading Hawkeye, the Matt Fraction one, which a lot of there were so many different callbacks to that in just these first 2 episodes. It was, you can definitely tell the influence and impact of this. So, all right, so fair warning, if you have not seen Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2, now is the time to bow out and come back to us as we break it down. So we're going to get into full spoilers in 3, 2, 1. I'm going to start off with something simple that's not necessarily a spoiler. How about that Marvel Studios fanfare making those shifts?
Yeah, I finally was like, okay, I need to take the time, because you've told me that Black Widow was in the fanfare, and I'm like, I'm gonna find this, and I watched it 4 times before I found the shot of Nat and Yelena.
Yep,
and I'm like, there it is, finally. No, I
there you are, Leo, pointing at the screen. There it is.
Yes, that is me. And I wanted to screenshot it, but I was on my phone actually at the time. I wanted to screenshot it just to be like, I found it, but of course you can't screenshot Disney Plus. I love the fanfare. I just smile every time.
Yeah, you got Shang-Chi is really much at the end in the M at that point, and then Sam Wilson as Captain America is now prominently in there as well at the end. So good to see them. So we open with a flashback to 2012, to the Battle of New York, or just right before the Battle of New York officially begins, with a young Kate Bishop overhearing her parents talking about how they're probably gonna have to sell their penthouse due to a lot of debts. And Kate's overhearing this, young Kate.
Yeah, and the Battle of New York feels like one of those like nexus points in time or whatever. Like it's
Oh,
just like
use that word,
it is.
nexus. There
I
we go.
know what I said. It's just like this key point, and we keep seeing different takes on it. We saw a different take on it in Avengers Endgame, where we found out that the Ancient One was also there. We see different take on it in Loki when Loki steals the Tesseract and takes
Mhm.
off. And now we're seeing it from a different perspective, this time from a civilian, right? This time from just one of those people living in those buildings. It's like you got to assume stuff is happening. And I really liked how they did that and the perspective that young Kate had as she's just trying to figure out what's going on. And like you can just see like her, like she like forms this attachment to Hawkeye as he saves her. I mean he probably knew she was there, but and then she's just able to watch and see what he does, and then you get another view of that iconic jump where he jumped
Mhm.
off and swung around. Really, really great opening.
Yeah, and I read a little bit that they did reshoot these kind of sequences for the show,
Mm-hmm.
and getting that different perspective on it. It was cool seeing it from her, and with her dad getting supposedly killed, because I didn't see a body necessarily, but they did they
I
did
think there's room to question that.
they did have a funeral. I know people say, "Well, what do they bury?" Well, there's life model decoys, so let's go with that. But we didn't see one on screen. But what I do find interesting is that the death of her dad leaves a very obvious empty spot for Kate, and why you already see in episode 1 and 2 how she gravitates towards Clint Barton and as her new kind of father figure replacement, and that she is not thrilled with Jack as her possible new stepdad. In the comics, it's actually Eleanor that supposedly dies and not Kate's father. And it's later
Mm-hmm.
revealed that Eleanor really did survive, and gets into some stuff with vampires and Madame Mass. So hold on to that thought right there. But she has she obviously looked up to her dad in some way, shape, or form. And so when we talk about how she looks up to Clint and that how she saved her, and immediately at the funeral says, "I want a bow and arrow," and you see the that title sequence, very cool title sequence of showing Kate in her progress of mastering archery, martial arts, fencing, and her not doing so well and then rising up through those ranks at that point. I think the title sequence is very, very cool. Does a lot of background without having to resort to flashbacks within the show, and obviously modeled after the cover style of Hawkeye.
Yeah, it definitely looks like the Hawkeye covers. That artwork is heavy there, and it was a really cool opening. It's like we don't get opening montages that often from Marvel. There've been a
Hmm.
couple. There've been a couple, including another one this year with Black Widow, but it's not like we get a ton of them. I really enjoyed this one, and I found it interesting that they didn't put it before episode 2. So it's the opening montage, but it's also just a narrative tool, a story to say she really like literally has been training for this stuff her whole life. Now, as we go through the episode, we'll see that doesn't mean she's the most proficient at everything. She still makes mistakes. She's still not perfect, obviously,
Hmm.
but there's like it's not one of those things where she just you know magically knows how to fight because that's what the story needs her to be able to do as she becomes a superhero. It's like no, she's legitimately been training like her entire life for this.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I'll have to see what happens with episode 3 if we have a proper title sequence, because I don't see this one repeating itself. I think this was just an episode 1 kind of thing, just because it was so Kate focused at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But then we don't have an end credits one at episode 1. We do have one at episode 2.
Right, right. And so I don't know. I like it. I'm here for
Yeah,
it. It
yeah.
was beautiful to just watch.
Oh yeah, no, I love that style. It reminds me a lot of the opening credits from Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, okay. I can
So.
see that. Yeah.
But yeah, we move to present day, and I think there's been some debate, but I think we've kind of settled on around 2 years for where this takes place?
Yeah, that's what the director said, and Joe confirmed for us as he in our GUA chat that the news guy did say like it's been years. It's definitely ambiguous, but I think it's ambiguous enough that they've left themselves room, and so it. I don't know. It's hard to pin down some of this of where everything fits in exactly, right? And honestly, I'm not too concerned with that unless like they try to suddenly tell us this takes place before Spider-Man Far From Home. Like that wouldn't line up with me.
Sure.
And that would throw me off. But I could see it taking place. Well, I could see it taking place with No Way Home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, which would basically put this kind of with Far From Home to an extent.
Yeah. To some extent. So we see the name of like says Stain Tower or Stain's Hall.
Obadiah?
maybe I'm not Obadiah, but it's just like he's pretty disgraced in the MCU from Iron Man 1, but doesn't mean that money doesn't hold high esteem for if it's a alma mater place for him.
Unless S.H.I.E.L.D. covered it up.
Might be, could have been.
Or, it wouldn't, even if they didn't, it would hardly be the first time that somebody who was disgraced historically still had, a building named after them or whatever, or the name of the building, which probably would have been there. It would have had that name, Stain Hall, prior to 2008, presumably.
Yeah, they could have put,
they could have left it.
They could have put any name there. They had it in the frame at that point. It's I'm going to call it a definite Easter egg at that point.
Oh yeah, that's not an accident. No.
Yeah. So you see Kate climbing the building because apparently she's lost a bet and has to fire one of her arrows to ring the bell at that point. First one doesn't go well at that point. Next one ends up hooking the little, as she calls it, the little dangly thing for the
I don't know what it's called.
We'll call it the bell hammer at that point, and able to ring it, proving her marksmanship is quite spot on. But the bell's probably pretty old at that point, and the mechanism ends up kind of breaking the bell and destroying the tower. And my wife and I are watching. I'm watching with her at that point. This will be her first time watching. This will be my third time watching episode 1, and she definitely got a good kick out of the whole tower collapsing just by that.
Yeah, and it's just a funny way to introduce us to Kate. In the present day, Kate as a grown up, as a 22-year-old, which was apparently 5 years old yesterday, right?
Why not? Be interesting to see because all the questions are: did Kate survive the blip at that point? Did she, in the sense of was she blipped out or did she come back? So I think we'll always have that question for a while as these new characters come into play.
You would think we would. I didn't once question it. I just kind of assumed she did, like that she didn't get blipped out. I wonder if they're going to reveal that, like definitively tell us whether or not she got blipped.
Yeah, I saw something. I didn't open to the article. I think someone has asked Haley Steinfeld the question whether she. Like I said, I didn't know how she answered it or not, so I'll have to look at that later. So then we flash to we get our look at Rogers the musical. Clint and his family are attending, and doesn't look like many of them, especially Clint, are fans of it. It was quite humorous to say the least.
Yeah, and you got to kind of look at it from Clint's perspective, like actually knowing there, like being annoyed at things like, well, Ant-Man wasn't even there, right? Yeah. And it probably is hard for him to see any version, if you will, of somebody dressed up like Natasha. Like that probably is still a pretty sore point. I mean, he smiled at the little girl a couple rows in front of him who was dressed like Natasha, but that's got to be so hard for him.
Oh, definitely. And this is where we get our first look at him having his hearing aid. So we will get a quote unquote, we'll talk about his answer about his his hearing aid, how that came into play. But this is definitely a parody of I'm pretty sure Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark and how campy that play was. And this is definitely a harkens to that because it's just like it's very eye-rolly, this play itself.
I think it's awesome. I think it's hilarious.
Oh, it's definitely. I won't lie. It's definitely funny.
It's eye rolly for sure. But I'm like I've got the sequence on in front of me right now, and I'm just like, I want to see the whole produced sequence, like the whole thing.
Release the Rogers cut.
Yes, release the Rogers cut. No, it's just so funny, and the lyrics to it were hilarious. Like giving each one of the different Avengers like their special moment, and just absolutely hysterical. I was cracking up.
I applaud them for the writers for coming up with something like that. That is something that I could legitimately see happen.
I was looking at some of the reactions, and I saw some people annoyed that the costumes were not nicer. Like Hulk is a green hoodie and green face paint. And I'm like, I think that was the point, guys.
Yes,
it's supposed to be cheesy.
You missed the joke. Again, look up Spider-Man, turn off the dark, and look at those costumes. Enough said.
Absolutely. This is absolutely fantastic.
So we get him going into the bathroom, seeing a little graffiti on it saying Thanos was right. I kind of half chuckled at that point.
Made me think of that subreddit group about Thanos, devoted to Thanos, when they had their own little snap one day where half of them were banned from the group.
Yes, that was great. And then the guy making a selfie request while he's going to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh, he I'm going to use the word, he broke the bro code. You don't stand there when you're going to the bathroom.
And I like Clint's reaction. It's like, probably not the best time to do it. And then the guy's like, okay, is now a good time? It's like, dude, take a hint.
Yeah, so awkward. So awkward.
So then flashbacks to Kate going home, seeing her mom and future stepdad that she doesn't know yet, but will be later told. He goes by Jack, but from the comics he's Jacques. I'm gonna always have trouble with this last name.
Duquesne.
Yeah, Duquesne. We'll go with Duquesne. In the comics, he is known as the Swordsman. And the Swordsman is the one who Clint studied from in order to become an expert in melee weapons. Now, I don't foresee them going that route, but I do see, and we do see a lot of call outs to in the apartment. A lot of swords are in the apartment. Later on, he is very much wanting to get Ronin's sword. So they're definitely kind of doing a lot of tips of the hat. Now, whether we will get him in as a swordsman, I'm not so sure about that, but I do like the tips of the hat.
I feel like we will see him in some sort of fight scene involving like actual, so like I know he did the fencing thing, but I mean like a real fight scene. I don't expect to see like, him and Clint bust out their old circus costumes and and do that kind of thing. And if you look up his character, he's basically a criminal, but it's one of those where he's like the criminal, but every now and then he'll do the right thing. Just happens to be if the right thing lines up with his motivations or not. But regardless, I will admit it, I did have to give it a Google search. I'm like, okay, I know he's somebody. I don't remember who. Let me verify. Yep. Okay. It's this guy. Not somebody I'm super familiar with. I'm aware he existed. That's about as far as my comic knowledge on him went before I did a little reading up on him today.
But again, the writers do their homework. They know who to pull from that gives these tips of the hat that apply in this setting at that point. We go to the Bartons having Chinese dinner. We get them calling. We get our that Clint, even though we saw from the second trailer, Clint's wife is alive and well. They're together. She's staying behind at home, decorating the house, and they're just spending time in New York. Him and the kids.
I never understood those people who thought that like Clint's wife left him or whatever. I'm like that very first trailer, because she was in it. I'm like, nothing there said that. I don't know where this came from. And to me, this scene was what was more important was one, it was just a touching moment with Clint and his kids, but two, another example of, and we get a few of them throughout these episodes, of Clint's celebrity that he is now.
Yes.
Because he is no longer able to just hide as secret agent, Barton. He is known. Like, people recognize him. And
he is very uncomfortable with it.
Yes. And not like it makes him mad. Like, he's not, I don't think he's like rude to these people or whatever. He's just uncomfortable with it. Like, he's like, no, I'll pay for my meal. No, you've saved us all. Dinner's on us. And it's a nice gesture. And he appreciates it. And it's just, I like seeing these interactions with him and regular people, which reminded me so much of the comic that we are currently reading, where a lot of it is just interactions with him and regular people. And for the record, I have clearly read way more of this comic than I remembered, because I still remember these issues as I'm reading them for Comic Book Club. But it's just cool to see Clint interact like a regular person.
Oh, yeah. And it makes sense, because, again, this has callbacks to me to in a different way to Iron Man 3. And what I mean by that is Tony dealing with PTSD from the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
Clint, I mean, again, we don't have a solo movie. This is our first kind of focus on Clint in a different way. He's gone through a lot, and that's an understatement.
And
And
Iron Man
so,
3 also gives us Tony interacting with just regular people as well, especially, the boy. So yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a great observation.
just a quick shout out to the daughter is played by, I think it's Anthony Russo's daughter.
I believe that's correct.
So
It's definitely one of their daughters. I think it's Anthony.
Yeah. And so that's who's playing the daughter. We see Kate at the charity dinner, finding out that from Jack's dad, Armand, that they're engaged. And yeah, you can kind of tell that he's not thrilled with the this idea either. And Kate goes outside, and this is where we get our first encounter with Lucky the pizza dog.
I do want to point out it's Jack's uncle, not his dad.
Oh, Jack's uncle? Okay, thank you.
Because his uncle is named Armand.
Okay.
And they make the joke about Armand the Third, and there's Armand the Seventh. So
Gotcha.
He would presumably be an Armand. But he is in the family. There's a reference to inheritance later, which, at first it's kind of like, oh, are you referring to Eleanor's, to Kate's mom? Like you're going to inherit her money once you're married, but maybe that's going a different way as the episode goes on. Did you see? I don't know what it's called, but did you see the cat that was just moving its arm back and forth, up and down?
And
in the let's see, which scene is it? It's right when they're transitioning to like the party and stuff. It is the same cat that you see in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh.
Where Bucky actually, like at the bar, Bucky reaches. I'm sorry, it's in the restaurant, not at the
party. Oh, okay.
Bucky reaches and stops the thing's arm.
Yep. Yeah, because that's what his youngest son is kind of imitating.
Yeah, and I don't think it's not the same restaurant. Like this restaurant is clearly not that bar that they were in. In fact, it caught my attention. I was like, oh, look at that, and I was like, somebody likes those things. I don't know who it is, but somebody on the production set or on the prop team I'm going to put this here, but they focused on it. So,
and the kid actually had a good time trying to imitate it. So
that's right.
But also, happy birthday to the dog that is playing Lucky. Apparently, it is his or her birthday.
Yep, I saw that today.
So later on, Kate sees her mom confronting Armand, or Armand confronting Eleanor, and they're arguing about something. And Kate's tells her mom, like, what is he threatening you? And mom just shrugs it off, saying, I don't know what it is at that point. So we know something is going on, because he says, I gave you a chance to admit it and you didn't, come clean about something.
Yeah. And, at first on my initial viewing, I very much took these at face value. Like what they wanted us to think, I was just letting process, so I'm suspecting Armand, I'm suspecting Jack, and now on my second viewings I'm more like, I don't know. He makes a comment of like him too, he also has like dangerous friends or powerful friends or something like that, and it's like the way he says it's like, I have dangerous friends also, implying, well, so does she. And so it's like, well, I bet I don't know, it wouldn't, and that's when I started suspecting her as a possible antagonist, if you will, by the time the show is over.
Yeah, I could definitely believe that. I have definitely a theory of what she could be at that point. But let's take our first ad break before we head to the black market auction. So, listeners, as you know, these ads can help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn the volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so let us head to that black market auction, which I have an idea that I think Eleanor's running this. She may not be down there, but I want to say, I'll say right now, I think she's the character Madame Mask. I think she is kind of, even though she's running a security company, I think she has a lot of technology and things like that she knows how to get things, knows how to keep things quiet, and she doesn't need to be down there, but she can secretly be running this auction.
Well, wouldn't that fit the comics? Didn't she? I mean, wasn't she?
I
Like she
know
was presumed dead for a while, then came back to be a villain or something, right?
she came back and was in leagues with Madame Mask. Like
Okay, there it is.
She worked for Madame Mask, and this wouldn't be the first time that the MCU combines characters that are sort of linked or could be easily melded in. And
Right.
Vera Farmiga, outstanding actress. I love pretty much most of the stuff she's been in. One of my favorites is The Departed and what is it? Up in the Air. Great roles for her. Great actress. So I could definitely see. I mean, they're playing her. I don't foresee her. She doesn't come off like the simple widow who is, made something for herself now and going to be taken advantage of at that point. She seems to be something else is going on, particularly that scene with Armand and that heated conversation that he had with her.
Right. There's I will be shocked if there's not more to her.
Mm-hmm. So Kate sneaks down there. There is that, one of the issues we just recently read with that black market auction with the tapes at that point. Well, this time they're selling off a Triceratops skull, Ronin's sword, Ronin's outfit, costume, and uniform. And it seems to be there was seriously a mad dash to get a lot of stuff from the compound that they were not able to get back at that point, including a watch, which I would when the tracksuit mafia comes in at that point, they're looking for this watch. I don't know if the watch has anything special about it. Could it be Tony's Iron Man watch gauntlet? I don't know. Or it just seemed they're very focused on this watch.
Yeah, it's a watch from event. Like if you pause it, it says it's from lot 268 Avengers Compound. So that's the location. I looked up Avengers 268 and it's an issue where they fight King. So I'm like, okay, King, time, watch, sure, I guess maybe that's a reach, but that feels like something they would do. I don't know of what watch. Like outside of like the Tony Stark watch that you mentioned, or didn't Doctor Strange make a big deal about his watches at the beginning of that movie?
Yeah, you're right. He had a series of them. But it didn't. I mean, the time stone at that point. I
wonder what more there is to this. It feels like there's more to it. Like, is this?
Yeah.
Are they recovering a watch for an owner? Like, had the Avengers, confiscated this watch? I don't know. Like, just asking questions. But that's the only thing I could come up with is Avengers 268 is. They're fighting King of the Conqueror, and we know that He Who Remains is a thing now.
Mm-hmm. So when the tracksuit mafia goes in, we were waiting for it. We heard it. A lot of bros.
Yes. I was very, very pleased with all the bros. I know not everybody, Katie, enjoyed the tracksuit mafia as much, but I thought they were great right out of the page. So good, so funny. And I am going to be very amused by these guys for hopefully several more episodes.
They did their job. They did their homework. They did their job. That's what they needed to do at that point. So Kate grabs the Ronin suit, puts it on, and starts basically kicking butt.
And she does pretty good. There's some good moves in there. She's not perfect again. She's not flawless. She definitely takes her hits, but she did a pretty good job, I thought, of infiltrating, like trying to pose as a waitress and just infiltrating to get into the room. And then when she had an opportunity to conceal her identity, she took it. And yeah, it didn't ultimately work. The tracksuit mafia was able to track her down, but still she took the opportunity to do that. And it was cool to see her in this kind of action scene. And I thought she did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, and as she exits it, she encounters some more of the tracksuit mafia, the guy like that has the watch, and then Lucky the Pizza Dog comes back at that point, and man, he I don't know if they're going to refer to him as Pizza Dog, Lucky, or Lucky the Pizza Dog in this show, but man, he almost bit it hard at that point, which is definitely a call out to issue 1 of them beating up the dog and then the dog almost getting hit by a car and how Clint saves him.
And so far they've only referred to him as Pizza Dog. We've seen him a couple times. I mean, it's Pizza Dog, Pizza Dog's awesome.
Exactly. There's that one guy from the Tracksuit Mafia that kind of chases after Kate that unmasks himself. I've heard some people say that this could be, and we'll talk about it tonight in the issue, could be Kay's, the assassin at that point, because they
Okay.
have a back and forth at that point in the series. He works for Kingpin. I don't know if we're going this route. I don't know if they're going to do this, but I've heard some people saying this character could be this actor could be portraying Kay's later on in the series.
I had not thought of that. Interesting.
I didn't think of that. I just thought it was another Tracksuit Mafia guy, but they could be pulling at straws. But figured I'd mention it at that point. Barton's go back to the hotel, and that's where they see the news report of the attack on the charity event, and Ronan's returned after a few years. And you put in there this guy that seems to be the news anchor. Why should he look familiar?
Yeah, we've apparently seen him in several different projects. Pat Kiernan, and I think that's his real name. Like when I looked him up, it said he appeared like as himself, reporting for this NY1, and I don't know anything about NY1, but he has appeared in the Avengers, in Iron Man 3, and Doctor Strange, and Far From Home. He's the one that did the lead into J. Jonah Jameson making his glorious, triumphant return. He's also appeared in Daredevil and The Defenders and The Punisher. And apparently, at least according to some Googling that I did, Amazing Spider-Man 2. I need to verify that. But Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm like, man, this guy is, what is it you said to me? Like, he's the real...
I said it's not Spider-Man that's the one who is the key to the multiverse. Yeah. It's this guy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's cool that they did that little visual continuity. No, that doesn't change any of my opinions about what is and is not MCU canon, but I still like that they're reusing it. And I frankly had, for as many times as I've seen these movies, I never noticed the random guy in the background on the news as being the same random guy in the background on the news.
Yeah, exactly. But then I appreciate that they keep saying, "Hey, you did a good enough job. We'll keep you as your news anchor." It's steady work at that point. But she drops off the dog and feeds him pizza, so that's the name Pizza Dog. And then she breaks into Armand's place and finds him dead, stabbed in the back, and pays attention to the candy and the name on it, because that's going to come back later. Because back up that, Jacques steals Ronan's sword from the auction. He has a bunch of swords. They're really trying to make us think it's Jacques. I don't think it's Jacques. I would like to think it's Eleanor that did it.
I actually think like how hard they're making us think that leads me away from thinking like it's too much. And so again, it's like at that surface level, you're just watching, having a good time. Sure, you'll think it's him, but no,
it was Mephisto actually.
I think Mephisto's actually going by the name Kingpin in this series, but
or the Power Broker.
The Power Broker. It's King. Let's call it what it is. It's King.
Yeah.
But I do not believe that Jack is, let's say, perfectly pure and innocent. But I don't necessarily see him right now, this incarnation of him, as a true criminal. Maybe there's some shades of gray in there, but and if he is a criminal, I don't necessarily see him as the one. I will be surprised if he ends up being like the mastermind behind stuff.
Yeah, he just doesn't come out, like he's not telling full truth. He obviously is hiding some things, but he doesn't like his uncle, really. They have a very strained relationship, but I don't see him wanting to kill him. That's why that scene that sticks out to me with Eleanor and Armand having that heated conversation leads me to believe that there is more going on with Eleanor than we have seen yet.
And, during the auction, his uncle had said, "You don't have this kind of money." And he said, "But I will someday."
Yeah.
And then he dies. It's like, okay, so it's an inheritance thing. And it's implied, at least I got the impression like he was the one who was going to get the bulk of the inheritance. But if he's also going to be getting married to Eleanor, then she can absorb that fortune into her own. Exactly. And we know, like they tell us a few times that, like there's the line early on about Kate being young and rich, and both young and rich people feel invincible. And so she's always felt invincible. And that's not how she was, how Eleanor was, because she wasn't rich as when she was younger. So she doesn't necessarily, to her, she may still be feeling like she has to amass money to grow her power base. And this would be a way to do it. marry Jack, kill his uncle, be part of the inheritance. Of course,
Yeah.
you got to assume that in these tax brackets they have prenups, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would say that probably a requirement at that point for one side or the other. But so Kate runs out of there. She gets ambushed by the tracksuit mafia, and again handles herself. Has a couple of misses a couple of times at that point, but is able to run off. Clint comes in, takes him down at that point, and pins Kate and unmasks her. And he's more surprised than anyone about who's underneath that mask.
Yeah, just a kid, right? He's definitely surprised, and it's like, who are you? Like, I don't know who you are.
It's like Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Who?
Who? Yeah, different Ronin involved there though.
Yes, very much so. And that's where we leave episode 1. So thank goodness we're just like, oh, guess what? We get a second episode at that point. Gotta love when scheduling happens on Disney Plus saying, you know what, we'll give you 2 episodes because we love you. No, it's because we already have a date for the Book of Boba Fett. So that's why you're getting 2 episodes.
When Falcon and Winter Soldier premiered, we had that first episode, and like the whole time everybody's just waiting. Like, when are Sam and Bucky going to be on the screen together? Like, when are we going to get to see them interact? We didn't get it till episode 2, right? That's basically what we had here, minus this one scene.
Yep.
The real interaction was in episode 2 with these 2 characters. I'm really glad that we got them both together. I'm really glad that they did it that way.
I think this is, like I said, it's very good to see both characters not just together, but build the story up, because again, we only have 6 episodes, so there's a lot to go on, and seeing both of these episodes be around 45 minutes each at that point, not including credits or close to it. I have a feeling that this is the way this show is going to be going for runtime.
Right.
All right, so we pick up immediately. Episode 2 starts off with where we left off, and it's interesting how you look at Clint and Kate in the comics. It's very, very different. They don't meet this way. In fact, in the comics, Kate Bishop takes on the mantle of Hawkeye after Hawkeye, spoiler alert for a many year old comic, is killed in Avengers Disassembled.
Right, and he comes back, and that's when he takes the Ronin identity.
Yes, and so all these things get connected, but Clint asks her where she learns to fight like that, and she kind of goes over her kind of background in martial arts, fencing, archery, and things like that. So they go to Kate's place where they're greeted by Pizza Dog and see a little bit more of her place. She's got a punching bag. She's got a big target to continue practicing. Clint named as the one who names drops the Tracksuit Mafia because he's had run-ins with him as Ronin. And he basically says, you can't be wearing that suit around. This suit carries a lot of baggage with it. A lot of people are going after it. You need to take it off, give it to me, and be done with this. And, Kate says at that point, she has no idea. They have no idea who they are, who she is. And then outside, they're there screaming Kate Bishop and throwing Molotov cocktails into to her apartment.
Right. And I love that shot. I know we talked about it in the trailers where Clint breaks out the window to let the Molotov cocktail in, catches it and chucks it back at him. And then you just hear the tracksuit guys in the background. He's on fire. He's on fire, bro.
He's on fire, bro. I think it's also very funny when Kate's trying to be kind of smooth and slick, said, I'm going to put out the fire and shooting an arrow at the fire extinguisher, kind of forgetting that that's pressurized stuff, and so as soon as she hits it, it doesn't do what she thinks it's going to do. It basically goes all over the apartment and out the window and leads to nothing.
Yeah, and when they go on the run, like I like how like excited and like giddy she is to be with Clint. Like, are you assessing threats right now? Oh, we're getting supplies. Are they Avengers supplies? He's like,
are we going to Avengers Tower?
No, Stark sold it.
I want you to talk about your theory because I think it's a really cool theory.
It's my latest theory of giving me my opportunity to talk about this. Everyone thinks it's the Baxter Building, or everyone thinks it's Oscorp potentially. Of those two, I think Baxter Building is more likely because Marvel has the full rights to that versus the situation with Oscorp. But it just dawned on me tonight while I was driving my kid to one of her classes and thinking about it. It just occurred to me. It's like, there is another tower. Like, I can think of another tower in the Marvel universe, and that's Fisk Tower. In the Spider-Man 90s cartoon, that was a frequent set piece that they went to. The helipad at Fisk Tower, like they were out there all the time. And there was a location. That's a location in Spider-Man for the PS4 game.
Yep.
And there's those rumors. There's those rumors. We've talked about them. You've heard me say it tons of times that I'm hoping to see Kingpin in this. And I've let's put it this way. I've seen nothing that makes me think those rumors are not true. Like there's nothing that it's very much on the table still, but it just occurs to me. It's like, well, maybe he bought it. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, would Tony sell it to him? Yeah, he would, depending on what Wilson Fisk's public image was at the time.
Yep.
He potentially would. And because all canon jokes aside, we don't know the canon situation of the Daredevil TV show to this, and like when he was selling Stark Tower, which would have been sometime during the blip, presumably, or right after it, because we see it's like under construction by new owners at the end of Far From Home.
Yep.
That it just feels possible. So I just wanted to get it out there. I just wanted to have it on the record. Do I think it's the most likely option? No, I still think the Baxter Building is the most likely option. But you got your receipt out there. You got your hashtag ready. Brent told you so. That's right. There's a non-zero chance.
Yes. So after they get their Avengers supplies, they head to Kate's aunt's place. And the name I think of Kate's aunt, or at least one of the names that she focuses on, is Moira Brandon. And in the comics, she's the one who sells her estate to the West Coast Avengers, who turn it into their new HQ.
Yeah, which was a connection that I did not know until recently, effectively between Kate Bishop and the Avengers in the comics. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But
I don't think many of the other names, I at least didn't pick up any of the other names, but that one stood out to me.
So, I mean, just a nice little throw, because correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Clint part of like the founding of the West Coast Avengers?
Yes, he is.
Right. And so who knows, we've talked about all these other teams that are coming, and I really haven't given much thought to the West Coast Avengers, and maybe we should be thinking about them.
You know what? We've already everything happens in New York. We got to start. We're getting more and more on the West Coast. We got Ant-Man. We got Shang-Chi. Let's get that West Coast Avengers going on. Maybe that's our new sequel. So Clint leaves, heads back to Kate's apartment where he's trying to get the Ronin suit. Very slickly grabs a firefighter clothes, and suit's not there. But he does see on one of the trucks a sticker that says NYC LARPing. Now, my only experience with I immediately knew what LARPing was, because one of my favorite comedies, Role Models, is my only understanding of what LARPing is. If you have never seen Role Models, it's rated R. It stars Seann William Scott and Paul Rudd, so it's automatically awesome with Paul Rudd in it. But one of the younger characters, does LARPing as his hobby. So
when I saw it, I understood what it was. Like when I saw them there, like I'm like, oh, okay, it's a live action role playing. Like I understood what they were doing then, but I did not know the term LARP. Like this show taught me that term. Yeah. I will say there's a couple little things that I feel like it's a little bit of a leap, and I'm going to call this out as one of them. He doesn't find the suit in her apartment, but he finds this one sticker. He just happens to be the sticker for the firefighter who found the suit and took the suit, and he tracked it. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm not
it's a big
get hung up on it, but it's convenient. Let's put it that way. Like at the same time, I did have the thought, I'm glad he's already got the suit back, because I didn't necessarily want for whatever reason, I just didn't like the idea of 4 more episodes of hunting down the suit.
Yeah, because that should not be the focus of the show, is the suit.
Right. And so, it's a bit of a leap. I loved the actual LARP scene when we get to that point. And so I'm like, it's a leap, but I'm going to go with it.
Oh, it's just great, because he is just so unhappy he has to do this and participate in order to look at one of the members to see if they do have it and wearing it
at first.
And then he goes in and just owns everyone.
I mean, they said body shots kill you. I'm like, I think I saw a couple of them on him there, but I mean, okay, we're not there in story order, but whatever. That scene was hilarious. And because to these people, maybe it seems goofy to you, but to them, it's important. It's fun. It's what they want to do. And they were really into it. And so I think it's awesome. And as you're watching, he got more into it. But
Oh
then
yeah.
he is like, okay, well, you can let me pretend kill you, or you can let me real punch you. And I mean, I really appreciate it. But there's that line at the end again with him. He's talking to who we find out is Grills, right?
Mhm.
And he's talking to Grills, and he just says, I'm glad to have done it. It's like, and I believe him. And again, it's him dealing with his celebrity because Grills is so excited to see him. And
Yep.
he's like, "You're an actual superhero. Please let me kill you. Let me kill you." And he's like, "I'm glad to have done it." And I just think it's to me, that's like Clint opening up with being a
Oh
regular
yeah.
person.
It is. So even before we get to the LARPing scene, he sends his kids home, and because he kind of lies to him why he's sending him home early, but we know why he's sending him home at that point.
Sure.
Promises he's going to be there by Christmas. Uh, he's walking with Kate through the streets talking about, and she kind of calls him out saying, "Yeah, you have a branding issue." Because, she kind of points out like the cosplayers and said, "Oh, yeah, there's a female playing you." And he goes, "Yeah, that's not me. That's Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games." And that's my point. People want to people want their heroes to wear their heart on their sleeve, and he says like, "I'm not interested in Halloween costumes or selling myself for a show for $20." Like, but I think he really still, even today, Hawkeye still has that problem. It's not a character that's branded very easily at all.
No, especially when they took him out of the purple costume with the mask,
Yeah.
and like they move him away from that. And I mean, she's right. There is a branding issue. Makes you wonder if that's going to change. If he's going to end up like eh, more in the public eye. Like, are we going to be in a situation where he has to give a speech or something like that to a bunch of the public? Like, imagine him trying to give a Steve Rogers
Oh,
style
yeah.
speech or a Sam Wilson style speech. It's like, I don't know if he's got a minute. Got it, but we'll find out.
But we get kind of her calling out like, "Oh, what's with the hearing aid? When
Yeah.
did you lose it at that point?" And you kind of get a flashback to all the moments that he could have really lost it. I think probably the end all be all was the explosion at the Avengers compound in Endgame.
You know, that was a very common theory going into this. And I fully expected to get a flashback to that. I wasn't expecting the flashback to the other moments, making me think it's more of like one of those like repeated trauma. And
Yeah.
eventually it just couldn't come back. And I like that they included that. It's the second MCU project in a row now where we're seeing sign language used, and
Mhm.
obviously not to the same extent as what we saw with Makari and the Eternals, but it's cool to like see that included in this, and we'll get some more of it here with another character we meet later.
Yeah, and especially his younger son does sign language back to him,
Yes, which was
before he
adorable.
which it really was. And I do wanna call out my favorite line from both episodes was during the LARPing when Clint goes, "And I fought Thanos,
Yes,
and I'm having to do
yes.
this." So but I did like when he got the suit back, he and his wife have another conversation on the phone, not just saying, I'm not gonna make my flight," but she knows his life. She knows about Ronan. They have talked about it. They know she knows at least enough of what he did that she kind of talks to him and like, "Okay, so what's the play? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna do this?" So,
What's the situation with the problematic wardrobe? I like
yep.
how she phrased it that way. And
Mhm.
then he just says catch and release. And well, I mean, if that didn't make you think of Natasha in the Avengers when we first see her in that movie, I don't know what
Yep.
does.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a cool little callback, and I do like seeing them how she is. Again, she knows what his life is, but really, I liked seeing him not hide what Ronan was to him when he was gone, when they were gone.
Absolutely. And he's clearly hidden it from his kids, which I think
Yes.
makes a lot of sense. But his wife knows, and that's the
Mhm.
person who should know.
Yeah, exactly. So, at that point, we do see Kate go to her mom's company. What is it? Bishop Security.
Mhm.
That's where the revelation of Jack's uncle being killed has come forward. They're going to have a dinner together. Uh, you know, Kate continues to kind of basically verbally spar with Jack, and kind of they basically challenges him to fence, and she keeps on calling him out during this fencing, saying, "You're holding back. You're better than you're letting on. Don't let me win." And then when she lunges at his head, that's when he shows, "Oh, you do know some stuff." I don't, like we've kind of said, I don't think he's a villain. I don't even know, he could be slightly antagonistic, but I'm kind of wondering his intentions, to really want Kate to like him.
I mean, he read a book. He's
He
trying
did
to
read a
be a
book.
good stepdad.
I'm not saying like he should be, oh, he's misunderstood. No, I think he's got some slime on him, but I I think he's enjoying to some extent this verbal sparring with Kate.
Yeah, I think you're right. Both the verbal and literal
Yeah.
sparring with Kate, I think he was enjoying, and she's good enough to know that he's holding back, and she trusts herself enough to take the shot at him. Because if she was wrong,
Oh yeah.
if she was wrong, she was going to find out real quick. But no, like he easily parries it away, and really cool scene. I would have liked more of that, but again, I think we're going to get more sword fighting with him sometime before this show has run its course.
Yeah, maybe getting a chance to wield that Ronin sword. We'll see. So Clint is quote unquote ambushed by the tracksuit mafia. When they say, "We got you, bro,"
He could not have been made it more easy for them.
Exactly. And I love it. He called it. If you hear, I heard it, but I also saw in closed captioning the second time. It's like, I can see through this mask.
Yes, that was hilarious. Yeah, the humor in this is like I wouldn't call it a comedy, but multiple times I was laughing. Like multiple times, like legitimately
tongue in
laughing.
cheek.
And so tongue in cheek is a great way to describe it. I can see through the mask. Absolutely.
Because again, this is not the fact that Ronin had to face down the tracksuit mafia is like, was this the beginning of it? Was this practice for him? Because
I cannot believe he did not murder them.
They should not even exist anymore. But when they bring him to whatever their hideout is, the leader says she wants him alive. And we don't know who she is at this point. But you and me are knowing, and anyone who's a fan knows, like, oh, we know who she is.
Yeah. Prior to that, I love the bit about when they take the hood off of him and he looks around and he basically criticizes their warehouse, their abandoned warehouse. And the one guy is like offended at it. He's like, "Hey, it's hard to get warehouse space. Everybody's turning them into lofts."
That's true too. That's very, very true. Kate tries calling Clint. When she tries to call him a second time, I'm assuming one of the mafia people answers. At that point, that's when she uses her mom's security system to triangulate.
The other logic point, I'm like, random security system has access to the cell towers. And like, okay, I'm gonna just file you away like I did with the LARP tool.
Hey, Patriot Act solved everything, right?
Fair point. So we'll just Patriot Act it away and move on.
Exactly. So Kate tracks him down, and Clint basically shows very quickly that, you didn't tie me up quick. I can leave whenever I want. I can kick your all's butt at that point. He's trying to figure out what's going on, and Kate is there. They think Kate is Ronin, period. Like, they think Kate was the Ronin they faced down a couple of years ago. They have no idea it was Clint at all. And so when Kate falls through the sunroof, they both get tied up. And this is when we end with getting what we've seen in the trailers, but getting our first look at Echo.
Yes, and she's like feeling the speakers, like to feel the vibrations, because she is a deaf character. She can't hear, and so that's how she was able to do that. And then I'll be real curious to find out, is she gonna, like in the comics, she's sort of like a taskmaster,
Yeah, she has photographic abilities.
And I'm like, oh, are they gonna show us that? Like, is that gonna be a thing?
I say yes. I say yes, because I think this is a big moment, not just, again, a representation moment, Native American, deaf, but having those abilities, photographic abilities, to basically all she has to do is see something and can mimic it immediately. She's going to start mimicking some archery.
Yes, and we should get some good, shots of like arrows flinging at each other and stuff as they're both trying to match each other. It should be fun. I'm wondering now if Echo and Taskmaster have ever fought. I may have to look that up, but
that would be interesting at that point.
Regardless, I was excited to see Echo, because I didn't know when she was going to come in. I'm like, all right, we're done with the first act, right? It's already 2 episodes in, and there she is.
And you know what? Again, this is our entry point to that lovely man, the Kingpin. She in the comics, the adoptive daughter of Kingpin. Could this be, if he is the Kingpin of New York and he's running some of the underworld, could this be she has been put in charge of the tracksuit mafia for Kingpin, as her trial?
That's kind of along the lines that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel like the tracksuit mafia may think it goes up to her, but she knows it. Like I don't think she's at the top of that pyramid.
Yeah.
And so just they don't know who's above her. They don't know who she reports to.
Because it's she is not a tracksuit bro, So they are visibly, the person that goes to her is visibly, you can see kind of fear and respect on his face for her.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm very curious to see episode 3 as we delve more into Echo at that point. It's going to be good. So again, I'm with you. I enjoyed these 2 episodes, and again, if you were looking for high action, you have your action beats. But again, this is not going to be a show, I think, that's going to be focused on action to sell it. I think this is going to be very, very character driven.
I think I will say, like, for the first 2 episodes of each show, I think this is my favorite start so far.
Yeah.
I think I'm willing to go that far with it. I was thoroughly impressed. And no, like, Clint Barton has never been my favorite character again, but I am really excited to see where they take him over these next 4 episodes.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that since you've said that. I know Travis Snell said that at that point. I think Hines has kind of echoed that. It's definitely in the top 3. I don't know where it ranks, because it's again, like, these shows are comparing apples to oranges, because my top, if I were to rank my top episodes, 2 back-to-back episodes right now, I mean, Loki's up there and WandaVision, but they're all 3 very different shows.
They are.
I
Absolutely.
mean, people were like, okay, duh, they're different shows, but I'm just trying to bring that a point. Like, to me, to rank them like that is like, but I like what WandaVision did in those first 2 episodes, but I also like what they did in this show with 2 episodes. So again, it's okay to have that. I mean, I'm not a bad problem to have. I still get to like them all. So
yeah, I had a coworker ask me if I like these better than these 2 episodes better than the Loki show, because he didn't like the Loki show because he's demented. And
no, tell me how you really feel.
Oh, I've told him that too. Don't worry. And yeah, I just told him honestly, it's like, well, I can't really compare it to the whole Loki show, because that's a 6 episode thing that we saw all of it. But I really think I like these first 2 better than the first 2 of Loki. Not that I didn't thoroughly enjoy those as well, but like you said, luckily it doesn't really matter what order you rank them in. You still get to appreciate and like them for what they are. And they are so different from each other. This is the 5th Marvel Studios project for Disney Plus this year. And I feel like all 5 of them are completely different things from all the others. And that's awesome.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm looking for. Again, I've said it and I'll keep saying it. It sounds like a broken record. Phase 4 theme, one of the big themes is legacy. This show is reeking of it. So, all right. So 1 and 2 down. We will review at our normal scheduled time, episode 3, and I think that's where we're going to see the car chase we got the preview on Disney Plus Day with.
Yeah, I'm like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure we'll get that within like 10 minutes.
So, all right. Well, we are going to take our final ad break before we head into Comic Book Club. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'll give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So Comic Book Club will continue. I want to point this out, though. I just happened to look at Comixology because, with Black Friday, Thanksgiving, a lot of sales going on, and, all these sites. Comixology is having a sale on Hawkeye and Kate Bishop titles. Until December 5th, you can get volume one of the Matt Fraction 1 for 99 cents, and volumes 2 through 4 for $1.99. That is 82 to 91% off of regular price. So if you do not have Marvel Unlimited, these comics are basically from $10.99 to $15.99.
Good Lord, that's cheap.
So again, I wanted to kind of plug that. The Comixology is not a sponsor of this show, but I'm all about sending you to places where you can get awesome reading material.
Yeah, so if you didn't already have them, go buy them, and then you can catch up and do comic book club with us.
Exactly. So, all right. So we are on issues 9 and 10 this week. What did you think about these issues as a whole? Particularly, we'll start with issue 9.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It's fun to see like basically the different women in Clint's life
Again.
having to interact. Yes, again, I love that they did that again. Like there was a brief moment I was like, wait, did I open the wrong issue? No, this is different. And then they break into each individual part. It's like you have the section for the ex-wife, the section for the work wife, and for the was it friend girl that they said, or and and then just the one
Kate gets a section.
she does, just Kate. No, this it was a fun issue. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked that we brought back. I guess it was that woman that he kind of slept with from a couple of issues back with the car.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, tracksuit mafia still after him at that point. And I just enjoy, bringing in the tracksuit mafia again. I just like it when Kate whoops all their butts.
Yeah. I mean, that's always fun to see. And I called it a fun issue, and I stand by that. I should just put this caveat out there. Not really the last pages. Those aren't fun, just to be clear.
I did not seeing Grill get killed in
No, and
very vicious fashion.
like they just gave us that super touching issue with him and focused on him, and we, I feel like we just got to know him, and then they just take him away from us as jerks.
Mm-hmm. And we'll find out who it is, but you basically see like Clint's on very strung out shape right now. Like he is not in a good place.
No, not at all.
So we move on to issue 10, and I have to call out this artist right now. Francesco Francavilla. He I think it's mainly not just his art, but the colorist at that point. And who is the colorist on this? Because I don't see it on call out. Darn it. He could have done his own colors, but typically not usually you get that.
I bet you he did, just because it says artist.
Okay, well, if he did, then that makes the most sense, because he is the artist of one of my favorite runs of Scott Snyder for Batman, the Black Mirror. And as soon as I saw this artist, I know who he is automatically. I love this kind of painted style. He does amazing splash pages. If you've never read that Black Mirror, that one splash page looking at Gordon's face 2 different times with all the different colors, I just kept on bringing me back. But how he draws Craze, I think, as I called out before, the possibility of that guy in the show. What was it? Let's see. Oh yeah, Case. Excuse me. This psycho assassin that is the one who killed Grill, and that he's basically kind of putting the moves on Kate, but she doesn't know it's him.
Attacking a couple different ways. I wanted to mention you said he does these great splash pages. The composition of these pages, they're different. It's not your typical, 9 panels or whatever it is. And yeah, sure, there's some of that in there, but a lot of them are just so visually different from the others. Really, really enjoy just staring at these pages.
Yeah, very, very kind of pop art kind of feel. So, but I think this guy's going to be, remembering, hinting towards it. Like, this is a big antagonist for Kate for very obvious reasons, but I think this is going to be kind of her facing down her big villain right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it seems to be. It's like he seemed to really be targeting her specifically. And so I'm sure we'll see. I assume we'll see run-ins with Clint, but I don't know. I think he's
creepy as hell,
but he kind of invokes a Joker-like feeling, and that just gives you a level of the creep factor.
Especially at the end, I told you I came from hell, and no denying that. All right, so next week we get issues 11 and 12, and I can't wait for 11 because it's the infamous Pizza Dog issue.
Yep, we're getting there next week, right?
Yep, next week, issue 11. So, all right, so thank you all for joining us this week for volume 81. At that point, again, all Hawkeye, kind of like it, very similar to when we had our single kind of Loki focused episode. So hey, you know what? I like these. These are nice and straight to the point, but great show. Looking forward to more Hawkeye. And so yeah, so again, we'll plug our sponsor again, organicpricebooks.com. Check out their Black Friday sale, 5% off, and use that code Marvel GUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Use it unlimited time. Brent, how can they follow you and plug your show?
Yeah, Brentech Prime on Twitter and TikTok, and the other show is Fans Without Borders, where we just put out our most recent episode was going over Disney Plus and talking about that Spider-Man No Way Home trailer.
A lot of good stuff, a lot of goodness on that. So yes, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga, my other show, World's Finest True Believers. You can follow that at Finest Believers. You can follow this show at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask any questions. Continue to rate and review us on this on Marvel Alliance on their solo feed and the GUA on the main feed. And as always, thank you all listeners for listening this week. You know, you couldn't join us live, but thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to our Americans celebrating. And stay safe. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers.
See you later, bro.
Bro. Well, we do have a post credits discussion.
Of course,
we're not gonna leave you there just because it's not live. We're gonna have this for you. We're not gonna forget about you. You wait for it, and if you don't wait for it, shame on you. We've been doing this for a while. But in the idea of American Thanksgiving, I brought up to Brent saying, let's do kind of our top 3 Marvel things so far this year, whether it be movies, streaming, and comics. 3 things right now that we are thankful for Marvel. Now, again, Marvel, we're not this shallow people that we don't have.
We're not leaving out our families.
Yeah, leaving out our families. That's what I said. Like, it's a Marvel focused show. Give us this little thing of what Marvel things that we are thankful for this year. So we are not that awful people. So what do you want to? Which one of your things you want to talk about?
I'm going to call out WandaVision. Okay. Because WandaVision broke the 563-day drought between Marvel projects. And even though in my rankings, I don't have it as my highest of the TV shows, it's still like what it turned into was such a fun thing to be a part of week to week, like such a fun phenomenon of what it was. And frankly, I'll say, I'll just bring up like when those first 2 episodes, that first day, when those dropped, I was stuck home from work, recovering from pneumonia. So it was awesome to have some new Marvel content to help, take my mind off of that and just get to thoroughly enjoy. And so I'm going WandaVision for my first one.
Yeah, mine, I will go with Falcon and Winter Soldier, because specifically, we now have Isaiah Bradley in the MCU, a character that was just controversial in the sense of the series itself, that, just what have you, and bringing it back, the quote-unquote Black Captain America. But the fact that they brought him into this show and the scenes, the 2 or 3 scenes in the show with him and Sam were some of the best in television this year. And the fact that Carl Lumbly did not get any sort of nomination or award for those scenes he was robbed. Plain and simple.
I could not agree more with that. He was so good.
But what's your second one?
I'm going to go think about comic books. And it's like, okay, well, I'm like, I could just name this series or that series. But no, I'm going to go a little broader. I'm going to say the Marvel Unlimited service in general. Now, I know technically it switched from the 6-month delay to 3-month delay late last year, late 2020. Mm-hmm. But for me, like that was such a game changer in the way that I read my Marvel comics. And I went from only reading a handful to reading quite a bit as both old and new, because I moved entirely, like all my Marvel, like I haven't bought any Marvel comics in a long time. I'd have to go back and look at my Comixology account to find out what exactly the last issue was. but I basically moved everything over to it. And yeah, I live in a world that's 3 months behind. I just don't look at the solicitations anymore. I mean, yeah, if someone sends one to me, I'll look at it. But I used to every month look at the solicitations for what was coming out, in 3 months or whatever it was. And I just don't do that anymore because for me, by the time I get to those, it's half a year away. But as long as I stick with all of my Marvel being on that schedule, then it's okay. Like I get to the main line-wide events, I'm there. Like everything's there, all the tie-ins are there, and it has been such a fun way for me to move. And I care more about getting to read the stories than owning and collecting the stories, which is why streaming works so well for me. So I'm going Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, I would say, even though I still collect physical books in different ways, the characters and stories I like from the olden days, I it is about I get I read the stuff at that point in the sense of like some of the big events, things like that. So I mean, I know what certain things play out, but I get quote unquote spoiled, not because I'm seeking it out, but because I read this stuff and I'm curious and I want to kind of be in conversation. But when I finally get to read it, either on Marvel Unlimited or when I get the collection, I enjoy the journey to it. I don't say, "Oh, I already know what's going to happen." I want to see how that. So I still get, and it could be months after the fact, and I could have forgotten what happened. And so when I get that moment, it doesn't ruin it for me. But yeah, Marvel Unlimited, it's allowed me to really find some series like the Guardians of the Galaxy one by Donny Cates, the Silver Surfer by Donny Cates, like some of the recent stuff. Like it's allowed me to finally read that stuff. Because not because I don't want it in collected edition, but because those aren't series that I have a special place in my heart for either the character, but I've heard enough about those events and those series that I at least want to read it.
And financially speaking, it lets you keep up with everything or anything at least that you want to keep up with at a far cheaper. Like it's like $70 a year for their cheapest plan, I think. And that's if you don't buy it on a special, which they regularly have specials. And it's like you read something like 18 or 19 comics that would have been $4 issues, and it's like you're covered like for the year, and everything else is great. It's like, man, I came out way ahead on this a long time ago. I'm like, within the first month or two, I've covered it, and then everything else is gravy.
Exactly. My comic it'll be kind of a twofer at that point. The wrap up of Donny Cates' run on Venom, just bravo. Absolutely. I have not
Completely
been
agree.
this enthralled. I've always liked the character of Venom, but the last time I was really interested and saw a real cool thing they did was Agent Venom with Flash Thompson. But he brought so much mythos and character and heart to Eddie Brock that I had not seen in ages, or if at all, to this level. The other thing is, and this is also something that you and I share an affinity to. Thank you, Marvel, for bringing back Ben Reilly.
Oh my God, yes, that's amazing, and Ben Reilly, he's so wonderful, and I love Ben Reilly. I love so much.
So that's my second one. What's your last one?
So last one, you know what? I'm gonna take slightly different tact with it, and I'm gonna say, well, I miss being a listener to the show with Travis and you. I am thankful that I got to join it just because it's been a lot of fun. It has truly been a lot of fun to get to talk Marvel every week with you and with Travis when he joins in. And so that I'm gonna go with that one for my third one.
Oh, geez, now it's gonna make my theme like not even close, but
it's okay. I can give you something else too. Don't worry.
You're good. No, and again, all honesty, my first kind of real geek podcast, was Fans Without Borders, getting to guest on with you and Ray, and that, before that or right after that was like Lisa and I Love That Movie, and so you all have been a part of my journey. So to actually have you be a co-host for the show with me, never saw that coming in a million years, but it's been a heck of a ride. I've really enjoyed it. You've brought, not saying Mr. Snell didn't bring his own dynamics to the show, but you bring a different dynamic as well. And it's definitely been a fun ride. And so what have you officially beaten him on number of episodes?
No, I don't think we're there yet, but it's actually getting close. But I don't have the food examples that he brings. And so, you know,
Or
it's like
the belts, the championship belts.
yeah, there's no belts over here. It doesn't. This show doesn't make me hungry the way it used to. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. So my other one, I'll go for the movie at that point, and the movie that I was excited to see, but had absolutely not much of a reference point, but was blown away by Shang-Chi.
Yep, that's what I was gonna
Yep,
say for a
yep.
movie too. Yep. So
Shang-Chi,
good.
and watching it again on Disney Plus with my wife, that was the first time she saw it. I picked up so much more because that was only the second time because I didn't get a chance to go back in the theater see it for a second time. But there was so much I really enjoyed about that movie. Is it my top Marvel movie of all time? No, it's not, but it is in my top 10. And that's including Disney Plus shows. It is in my top 10.
It is. It is my highest Phase 4 project. It is also in my top 10. And it's just such a beautiful movie. I freaking love that. And plus, hey, that's the one I got to see a couple weeks early. So
It's true.
that was pretty awesome as well that worked out for me.
Now, I don't know if any of us will. I don't think they're ever doing this. They're probably not doing anything like that for No Way Home. But
I mean, if I find out about it, I'll bend over backwards to try and make it work. But I will. But at the same time, it's like I do. There's part of me that's like, it'd almost be more fun to see it with like my group that is going to the movie with,
Yeah.
like to see it with, like, for my first time to, like, if I got passes to it, my wife would go, yes, absolutely. But it'll be a lot of fun to like have my dad there and have Brock there.
Yeah.
And so there, don't get me wrong, because Brock, I'm sure you're listening. I will go to the movie if given the chance. But
don't get me wrong. I'm not an idiot at that point.
I always say, I'm not in the Marines and I will leave you behind. But there is part of me that just doesn't want the opportunity, so I can have that Thursday night opening. And plus, if there's anything at all between with the Kingpin and the Charlie Cox Matt Murdock rumors, I'd like to see it in the way that Marvel intended. So
on the big screen right there for the first time.
Yep.
But yeah, so don't forget Spider Monday. Order your tickets. They go live on Monday. We don't have a time yet, but Brent and I'll be furiously refreshing Fandango so I can order my tickets. So
I actually, after we're done here, I'm going to talk to my wife and say, because you can look, at least I can at my theater. I know what time the screenings are, and I'm going to say, which one do you want? I think I know what she's going to say, but I want to know which one I'm going for that first day.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go for the earliest possible at that point that day, so I can get it in and just.
I would like to, but that will make it very difficult for me kid wise, and so I will not be, because there are some earlier than I'll be able to go to, but I will go as early as I can. Let's put it that way.
It'll be seen that Thursday. It will be seen.
Oh yeah, no, there's zero question about that.
But yeah, so those are the Marvel things that we are thankful for this year. We probably come December, we may have to add something to that, more than likely. But again, let us know what you're thankful for from Marvel. And again, y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.